Welcome to Late of the Rings, a podcast dedicated to Lord of the Rings the card game. My name's John, and here's my co-host. He's a great guy, lidless, wreathed in flame. Oh, sorry, a great eye. It's my good friend Emery.
Hello, John.
Hello, sir. It was a bit of a follow-on from last episode's one where you could penetrate, what was it, flesh, bone, whatever.
Yes. And in fact, in the last episode, strangely, I forgot to question you about that quote. But let's start with this one. So this is the first pun that we've had. Imagine if that was the line. A great guy. The great guy is ever watchful.
What a great guy.
He's a bit of a stalker, but he's decent. Got a good heart. Yeah. Was it lidless? I always like that lidless.
Well, actually, it's funny you should mention that because lidless, I mean, to be honest, the reason why I plucked this quote is because I hadn't prepared anything. I thought, well, what did I do last time? Oh, okay, I'll just do the same thing. But lidless, when I first read Lord of the Rings, when I was probably too young to read it, to like fully grasp what was going on, I was really confused by the word lidless in the book because, of course, it's not really a word that you would ever use, especially as a child. And I was thinking, because there were so many names for so many characters, you know, like Gandalf had like 6 names and Sauron had about 6 names. I just thought lidless was one of his names. The Great Eye, lidless.
Lidless. With a lowercase L. That's his informal.
Yes.
It's a nickname. It's a nickname. Oh, old lidless.
You better watch out for old lidless back there. It's ever watchful.
Ever watchful and wreathed in flame, was it?
Yes.
Wreathed in flame. I mean, that's obviously one of the most iconic images in the book, isn't it? I mean,
iconic. That's our second pun of the
yes, iconic. And there was the okay? Isn't there a famous sketch or little drawing by Tolkien, which perhaps, if I'm not mistaken, was on the front cover of the first collection of Lord of the Rings, or it's got like
the
black, white, and red.
Yeah, the illustration.
One bit of red in it.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah. I've always thought that was a really iconic thing. I only saw that much later because the copy I had of Lord of the Rings must have been some kind of 2nd or 3rd edition or something. The one I stole from my dad, borrowed from my dad. Yeah, but that always kind of struck me, and that was yet another thing. I thought, how are you going to do this in the film?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that was really tough, and I think they pretty much did as well as they could. Because that's such an abstract thing.
Yeah,
that it's almost impossible to completely get right, if you know what I mean.
Well, that's it. When I read the books, it's like I never really at any point thought there was a real giant eye up a tower.
No, exactly. Yeah. It was more an abstract thing. It was almost more like something out of a, like a spiritual or religious text or something, wasn't it? Yeah. Fascinating.
So how did we get onto this?
Okay, so I was going to ask you, what was the quote you said last time?
Oh, right, okay.
Which I forgot to go back and question you on. Can you remember?
You're going to test me.
I think I recall it being a tough one to say.
It was about, well, I sort of paraphrased it a minute ago about how the eye sort of penetrates flesh and, I can quickly look it up. Let's see. His gaze pierces cloud. It doesn't penetrate anything. It pierces. It pierces cloud, shadow, earth, and flesh. You know of what I speak, Gandalf. A great eye, lidless, wreathed in flame.
Oh, and who says that?
Saruman.
Oh yes. Okay.
Of many colours. I think he's Saruman of many colours at that point, which I only thought of relatively recently, thinking back to the book, that is something that they completely skip over in the film, isn't it? When he becomes Saruman of many colours. And I know that in the Ralph Bakshi film they do it, and his robe is pretty trippy.
So, okay. I don't recall that. See, again, I really need to go back and read the book because I kind of had a vague recollection of that quote last time. But is it true that that's in the book but not in the film?
Which one?
Because my recollection of the one from last week, the one about piercing.
No, I think it's in the film.
Is that in the film too?
I think so.
I've got a terrible memory.
Yeah, it's when he reveals the Palantir, but I don't know whether or not he reveals it before or after.
I love that whole scene is great because you just sense the switch. You sense the tension that Gandalf feels straight away. Like, hold on a second, you shouldn't be doing this, and you're meant to be smarter than me.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like you get it instantly, and you don't have to say it. But obviously they do explain it a bit, but you didn't really need to. But I always loved that whole idea of the Palantirs.
Yeah, the lost seeing stones. And they've not all been accounted for. That's what I love, is that there could be...
Yeah, exactly.
They could be out there in Middle-earth somewhere, and who knows who's watching.
Yeah, and that. One of the people who is watching is probably Denethor.
Denethor, for sure, yeah.
Because I love that from the book. I think they skipped that bit out of the film, didn't they?
They did, yeah.
Where he's got a Palantir of his own. And I think they allude to it in the film when he says... I see more than you imagine, or something like that to Gandalf. But I love the fact that, obviously he's kind of driven mad, isn't he, Denethor? And that's probably a big part of it.
Yeah.
It probably means he's actually a really strong character.
Yeah.
That he's able just not to go insane straight away or get rumbled, basically.
Yeah, but also, of course, because Sauron is clever, of course, so he could manipulate what Denethor is seeing. So it's not necessarily just trying to take him over, it's more destroying all hope.
Do you think it was an early warning about the internet? Essentially.
Very early.
You can't trust what you see. No one knows who's watching. You're getting lied to. Who knows what's going on?
Well, I didn't think of it till now, but yeah, story checks out.
See, it's very prescient work. Lord of the Rings.
But of course, we all know that that's not true because the internet was, of course, invented by Douglas Adams.
Well, it was actually invented. You know what? Funnily enough, this came out the other day. When I was about 8 or 9 years old, at school, it was one of those rubbish bits of like pointless homework they gave us. You had to come up with an invention.
Yes.
Right? And my invention, having known obviously nothing about how telecommunications work or anything like that, and it was born out of pure laziness of not wanting to get up and go to school in the morning. I invented this like homeschooling system, which is basically a screen, a keyboard, a camera, right? And then you got the teacher who could see everybody on multiple screens, and you could submit your homework kind of electronically. It was born out of pure desire not to get up when my alarm went off and just snooze a couple more times in the morning. That was purely the motivation for it.
Yeah,
I drew this little.
Yeah, is that the internet? That's more of just a network, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose unless the teacher was all knowledgeable, of course. Not that the internet is all knowledge.
My teacher was absolutely not all knowledgeable. Where was it in Douglas Adams? What was his...
Well, just essentially The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Look up anything you want.
Oh, yeah, right. Okay.
I mean, that is basically a smartphone.
I thought it was all self-contained, though. Like, inside the actual guide itself, wasn't it?
Yeah, you're right. I mean...
Because they had different versions, different copies of it, different versions.
That's true. But I do wish that my smartphone had the words "Don't Panic" written on it. I think I'd get a lot more done in the day.
I think we can fix that.
Anyway, this is an incredible tangent from the introduction. So congratulations to us.
We've done it again.
So getting it back onto track, have you been up to anything interesting the last few weeks?
Well, so the last few weeks, the social life has kind of got back to pretty much where I know we didn't want to talk about lockdown, all that stuff anymore. But from a social perspective, things have kind of, really got back to a place they were before. So it's great. So been going out a hell of a lot more, hooking up with friends and doing all that stuff, which has been fantastic. So some late night drinking way too many cocktails or whatever. It's just
you don't strike me as a cocktail kind of guy.
Oh, I am. My favourite drink in the whole world, I think, is a well-made gin martini.
Oh, yeah, it's fantastic.
But my least favourite drink in the whole world is a poorly made gin martini, I would say. If you get it wrong, it's disaster. I do love a cocktail. I tend to like more kind of simple kind of cocktails, not,
You're a simple guy.
I'm a simple guy. And I like a glass of whiskey, as you know. Yeah. Simple things done well, John. That's what it's all about. That's what I try to be, and I'm halfway there. The first half is no. So that's been fun. And apart from that, haven't watched an awful lot of stuff.
No, you've been out drinking.
I've been out drinking, but that normally means, though, sort of, getting under a blanket and watching something easy on the day after, doesn't it? So, I watched a couple of documentaries and things. Have you seen that one called "Don't F with Cats" on Netflix?
I avoided it. I didn't think it was for me. From what I had read.
I know we're both cat lovers, and you're particularly a cat lover.
Yeah,
even more so than I. But so it's not. Yeah, okay, maybe don't watch it. But that was fascinating because it was about this guy who does something very horrible to a cat. We won't go into details. And he posts it on a YouTube video. Yeah. And obviously, and that's why it's called "Don't F with Cats." So people go crazy.
Of course.
But really, they start a Facebook group and they try to hunt this guy down. And eventually, I won't say anything happens in case anyone wants to watch it, but it's amazing how much they influence the investigation into this guy's crimes.
Wow.
Just purely using social media. Yeah. I think Tolkien didn't foresee that when he invented the internet. But, it's another... It's another plus.
Yeah, he couldn't get everything right, could he?
No, exactly. Not even the wisest can see all ends.
Very true. Very true.
I always loved that line as well.
Yeah, me too.
That's a good one.
Gandalf got all the good lines, though, didn't he?
He did.
He kept them for himself, just like all the good fireworks.
Yeah, don't touch that one. And how about yourself, John? What have you been up to?
Well, I've done a little bit of socializing, but I'm not quite such a butterfly as you are. But a
social caterpillar.
Yes, absolutely. But what have I done? I've got two things to discuss. Actually, I've got something to discuss about Lord of the Rings, the card game, other than the entire podcast. And I've got something to discuss about the weather. So basically, it's two things that I obsess about.
It's just so British. Go on. Which one are we going to start with?
Well, let's start with the weather. So,
of course, that was the correct answer, but that was a test and you passed. Congratulations.
You may recall last episode I said that the sun had come out and I decided to heed your warning from this time last year, and I didn't touch the garden. I didn't uncover any of my garden furniture. I wasn't going to fall into that trap yet again. Okay. After that point, we proceeded to have the sunniest March on record. And I still didn't do anything to the garden. I just watched it be the sunniest March on record. And then it got to the end of March, and I thought, well, okay, it's been 3 weeks of glorious sunshine. I'm uncovering the furniture. And
well, so you did this at the beginning of April?
Oh, it was still just the end of March. Just.
Yeah, that's way too early. So you listened to me, and what happened? We were rewarded with record good weather. Then you took your furniture out. And pray tell, what happened then, John?
We had a week of snowstorms. we've had nothing but rain and hail and some of the worst storms to hit the country in any April on record.
That's right. Now, we were talking about teachers not being all-knowing earlier, and I'm not all-knowing. However, this is my area of expertise. If you had forsaken that, we would have had a glorious April, and you could have taken it out now whilst we're over the... okay, next year. I've got faith in you. I don't actually. You're going to fall for the... I can't resist, I must do.
It had been 3 weeks. The driest March on record.
It was great though, wasn't it?
I don't know. I was in my house.
You could have sat on the lawn,
You can't tempt fate.
Indeed.
Okay,
so we started with that's for bad news. Started with disappointment.
Yeah.
I'm not angry with you, John. I'm disappointed.
Fair enough. So let's move on to the Lord of the Rings news.
Okay.
So, since we last recorded, they have announced the first expansion pack to be released in this new format.
Ooh.
In fact, I think they announced it pretty much the day after we recorded. So I think last episode I said we hadn't heard anything, and then I booted up Tolkien's internet the day after.
Tolkien's internet. That's how we're going to refer to it.
Absolutely. And there it was. There was the news. So they have announced that the first expansion to get re-released is going to be Angmar Awakened. That was the name of the cycle itself, but it's essentially that was the Lost Realm was the deluxe box, and then Angmar Awakened was the name of the cycle. And I believe, off the top of my head, it was the 5th of the original releases.
How many were there? Can you remember?
Ooh,
9 or 10 or something?
Well, no, not quite that many of just regular deluxes, but there was also the sagas as well.
Yeah, so excluding the sagas.
Excluding the sagas, I think there were 8, not including the core set. Hang on, I could quickly check.
Okay. So they've gone quite deep into it.
Yeah, they've jumped to the 5th one. Now I do know. Now I haven't played this cycle yet, so I'm not going to comment on whether or not I think it's a good idea or not, because I personally haven't played through this one yet. But I do know that it was a very popular cycle, and I do know there are a lot of good player cards in it. So I can sort of see their reasoning behind it. If you want to get people interested. I do think it's strange that they didn't release Mirkwood first of all, because one, we've said before, it's a good introduction to the game. That it's maybe not the most interesting cycle. I think we can all agree with that, but it is a good introduction. You do get a lot of nice player cards, especially like Eagles. I'm a big fan, and also you have the core set, which makes up the vast majority of the encounter cards that you need for that cycle. So that's people already have them.
Oh, right.
Yes. But they haven't done that. They've decided to release Angmar Awakens. So yeah, I've got not much to say about it apart from it's relatively interesting. Some clever people on the internet have worked out that if you...
Tolkien's internet.
Have worked out that if you look at all the cards which have been made available in these starter decks, there are practically none from Angmar Awakens. So, and there are a couple of others where there's hardly any. So it kind of gives clues to which cycles they're going to release first, because yeah, I mean, but you can read into it or not, but it does kind of make sense that that's why they've done it this way, so that people who have bought the starter decks, who then buy this new sort of cycle, aren't going to suddenly be faced with a load of cards they already own, which of course makes sense. As for the release, I think they're due to release the mid of the summer, so July time is what I read. But time will tell on that one.
Well, the next cycle, you mean?
This Angmar Awakens one.
Oh, that's when it's, okay.
Yeah. So
the Angmar Republic. Where was Angmar?
Oh goodness, not this again.
Have we discussed this?
No, but you ask me where somewhere is every time, and I don't have the map to point at.
I mean,
tap tap tap.
I should know. It sounds like Angmar sounds like a nasty place.
I think.
Or is Angmar a decent place?
No, but isn't it? I think it's to do with the north, isn't it? To do with rangers and things. Oh goodness. I think it was to do with the Dunedain.
Was it? Blimey.
I think, but I may be making that up.
Angmar. Here we go. Angmar. Well, if Tolkien's internet would stop popping up all of these adverts on my screen. Okay. Of course, this is where I know Angmar from. Angmar was a realm established in TA 1300 by the Lord of the Nazgul, later called the Witch King of Angmar.
There you go.
There you go. That's where I know Angmar from. Located in the vale south of the mountains of Angmar, in a part of the world known for its cold and snowy weather.
Oh.
There you go.
But whereabouts is that in Middle Earth then?
I'm trying to see it on a map. Okay. In Peter Jackson's The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies, it is stated that Sauron's final goal is to restore Angmar and gain dominance over the north of Middle-earth by conquering the Lonely Mountain.
So it is in the north.
Strategic position.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I think you're right. Okay,
yeah, because
there we go.
Because Erebor is northeast, isn't it? So it must be around there somewhere.
Yeah, it's around there somewhere.
True authorities on Lord of the Rings right here.
We'd be great rangers, wouldn't we? It's over there somewhere. Is that way? No, it's over there. It's like that classic thing of, when you ask someone for directions, and within the first millisecond whether you're going to get good information or not. You ask someone, and if someone says, "Oh, do you know where such and such is?" And they go, they look over their shoulder.
Yeah.
Okay, do not listen to that person. No matter what they say, get out of that conversation as quickly as possible.
No, absolutely. No, the look when you ask someone for directions and they start looking around for clues, you're in trouble.
As much as me.
Yeah. No, but I do appreciate the effort, because it's the same as when you ever have to ask someone for a pen, when that person knows completely clearly that they don't have a pen, they will still pat themselves down to check if they've got one.
Yes. On pockets which they never use, where you should keep a pen, like in your top pocket. Nothing's ever been in there, ever. Yeah. So not today.
No.
That's so true. When was the last time you asked someone for a pen?
Yesterday.
For me? You should buy a pen. You should be the person who people come to ask for a pen. That's how it should be.
I was playing a card game with a friend, and we needed to tot up the scores. And I said, "Do you have a pen?" And he proceeded to tap his chest, and then I went and picked one up from the side. Okay, so back onto Angmar Awakened. That's going to be the first release. Yeah, like I say, I'm not really going to comment on that. I think if you don't own it, great. Go and buy it when it comes out. We are still going to sort of discuss whether or not the release schedule of these new packs is going to influence how we do the podcast. I have a gut feeling it won't, but we will discuss that.
So when did you say it was coming out? Midsummer?
Yeah.
We'll have caught up by then. Won't we? Got loads of time. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Paths will cross perfectly. Okay. Yeah, we'll have a think about it. Let's see what happens. Yeah. I mean, I guess, this is something we'll discover as we go forward anyway. And I always thought in my head that as time goes on, throughout the original release of these things, that certain new rules and new ways of playing get introduced, which you kind of learn, like secrecy, for example, which we touched on a couple of episodes ago. And then that would kind of continue in part in the future until the game sort of builds up and builds up and builds up. But I'm guessing then that maybe that's not quite how it works, and some things come in and then they disappear, and then something else comes in and then that disappears. But I have no idea. We'll have to wait until we've gone through a few cycles to prove that.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
interesting.
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
time will tell.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, do you think we should start talking about the quest we're going to discuss today?
I believe we should.
Okay. So this is indeed a spoiler episode where we'll be discussing a quest in depth, and the quest we will be discussing is Road to Rivendell. A Road to Rivendell? The Road.
Oh no, neither. You had it right first time. It's Road to Rivendell. Just Road.
So if you have not played that quest yet and you wish to avoid spoilers, it's probably best just to skip the rest of this episode and come back to it when you have played it. If you have played that quest or you don't mind spoilers, then we are going to start talking about it from now. So, Road to Rivendell.
Road to Rivendell. Do you know what I've got in my hand, John?
The insert?
I've got the insert sheet. Now, I think it's worth reading through.
Okay.
This one. Okay, I'm going to read through it.
You always have absolute knowledge over this than me, because I never go back and read the insert. So you stare at them and you say, I think we're going to read it. And I just bow to your will.
Glaze over. Here we go.
No, I'm a big fan of you reading the inserts.
Okay. All right. Let's go. So Road to Rivendell, difficulty level 4.
Okay.
Interesting. To be discussed. Okay. The heroes continue their journey northward to Rivendell, escorting Arwen to visit her father Elrond.
Oh, that's right.
Remember? Just go over the mountain. That was the previous one. Take Arwen with you. Okay, sure.
Yeah.
And go that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go the long way. That's the way to the Road to Rivendell.
Yeah, exactly. See, he was like us being rangers. Well, which way is it to Rivendell, Elrond? Oh, see that massive mountain over there is probably the only thing you can see. Just go straight over there. You'll come across the road. Keep going. But the road is long, and orcs ambush the party along the way. See, I already don't like that. It's telling you what's going to happen.
Well, this is Middle Earth.
Okay. But it doesn't say the road is long and orcs may or may not ambush the party.
Wow, okay, yeah.
Why mention it? Okay. You know I hate spoilers.
Yeah, but okay.
With enemies hounding the hero's steps, the weather drives the party ever closer to the looming mountains and the dangers they hold.
See, it
then tells you the cards.
I don't mind that as a bit of flavor text. See, it tells me, okay, well, we're going to go along this road, and is it gonna be dangerous? Yeah, there's gonna be orcs about. You go, okay, that's nice. I get a feeling of what's gonna be happening.
Okay, I think I know why there's the spoiler put in there, and we're going to come across it any second.
Okay.
Okay. Then there's 3 other sections. Okay, one talks about an ally, Arwen.
Yeah.
Andomiel, is that how you pronounce her surname? Andomiel.
Let's go with it.
Yeah. Won't read it all through. We've seen this kind of thing before. It's just it's a unique character which switches between players if you're playing multiplayer with the first player.
Correct me if I'm wrong. This is exactly the same Arwen card as we had in the in the previous quest, the Redhorn Gate.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
Then it talks about 2 keywords. So it goes over secrecy again.
Okay.
So we don't need to go back through that. But then the other one is ambush keyword.
Yes.
So maybe that's why I put it in the text, because it's going to explain what the ambush is. So maybe fair enough. So,
and to be fair, I did have to look this up because, like I say, I don't go back and read the inserts. And then when I drew a card from the encounter deck and it had ambush written on it, I went, right, what does that mean then? So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I did exactly the same. So it says ambush is a new keyword used in the Road to Rivendell scenario. When an enemy with the ambush keyword enters play, each player, starting with the first player and proceeding clockwise, must make an engagement check. The engagement check is only made against the enemy that just entered play and not other enemies that are in the staging area.
Yeah.
If the enemy engages a player as a result of this effect, then no further engagement checks are made against it, which makes sense because it's already engaged.
Yeah.
And that's it for the insert sheet.
Okay, but that's quite nice. There's a bit of flavor text and just explains one new keyword. I think that's how insert sheets should be.
Yeah. Flavor text always gets me. I wouldn't have too much. I think the more minimal, if you can just set the scene with a flavor text, but keep it minimal, that's how I like it. I like filling in the gap, because when you read the cards, I like my imagination to fill in.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, because
I don't want to be told, I don't want to be like you're reading a book or something. I want it to be more an experience which you're
But I think we're both quite similar in the fact that we don't tend, when we're doing this replay, we're not going back and reading those inserts, so we're just reading directly from the cards. And then I think then you do get just that sort of an abridged version of the flavor text on the first card. So I think we've got the best of both worlds.
Indeed. Shall we? And speaking of the first card, shall we go straight there?
Hit it.
Okay. So 1A, I should point out there are 3 cards in total in this quest. And the first one is called Along the Misty Mountains. It says, your party has braved the snows of the pass, but now must travel north along the Misty Mountains for league upon league as you escort Arwen to her father's house. So set up, put Arwen into play under the control of the first player, shuffle the encounter deck, reveal 1 card from the encounter deck per player and add them to the staging area.
Okay.
So a fairly standard kind of setup.
Yeah.
Then you flip it over. And it says, there's no special text on here, just a bit of flavor text, I guess. This is a wild and perilous country, and it is dangerous to follow the roads. The mountains rise up on the right, impassively watching your slow trek among their foothills. And you need 20 progress to get through just the first card. Ay.
Okay. Well, that's interesting, because we've had a few quests recently where there's been quite a lot going on, on those first cards. You have to put this location in, or you have to do this, or you have to do that, or this. But this is actually just going back to our roots. That it's basically just quest through a hell of a lot of quest points. But you've really no sort of extra things apart from we've got that ambush keyword and 1 card off the encounter deck. Should we just go through this quest first then? So let's just say then we'll go back and talk about sort of what we encounter on the way and what decks we took. Should we attack it this way?
I think so. In fact, just before we do that, shall we just very quickly just have a revisit of Arwen?
Oh, sure.
To seeing as she's there, because it's probably just worth noting. So Arwen is Noldor, a noble and an ally. She quests for 2, she hits for 0, hits for 0, has a shield of 1 and has 2 hit points. And the reason I'm reading this out is really because of the response. But it says, the first player gains control of Arwen as an ally. Response is, after Arwen exhausts, choose a hero, add 1 resource to that hero's resource pool.
Yeah.
And if Arwen leaves play, the players are defeated.
Keep Arwen alive.
That is the name of the game. Well, not really, but you know. But yeah, so just so that response, well, I'm sure we'll come back and discuss that, but it's so don't forget that response when you're playing.
Exactly the same as the card which was in Redhorn Gate then, wasn't it? Because that was also what well, it's just the same.
Yeah. And just before we move off the card, a little note about the artwork. There's a nice little scene of what I assume is Samwise and was it called Bill?
Bill the Pony?
Bill the Pony?
Yeah.
I think it's Sam and Bill trudging along a grassy mountain side, which is pleasant. It looks very purpley.
Okay, do you know what? I have been staring at the Arwen card during your description there going, what are you talking about? Okay, so let me just jump to the quest card here and have a little look at the picture here of what appears to be Sam with Bill the Pony. walking along next to the Misty Mountains.
Hey, you got it. You finally managed to drag yourself away from looking at Arwen.
Well, I was looking because Arwen's on a horse. I was thinking, well, that could be Bill, but it's a bit weird. And then I was like, well, where do you see Sam?
I just said I'd like to use my imagination. It's like, well, there's using your imagination and just making stuff up. Okay.
So we just need to quest.
Yeah. So get through your 20 progress on that one.
Okay.
A hell of a trek. Well, leagues and leagues of progress.
Apparently so.
And once you're through that, you move on to card 2A, which is Orc Outpost. And it says, heavy rain drives you to seek shelter among the caves of the mountains. They are dry, and the fire you start seeps into your bones and restores your spirit.
Very nice too.
That's what you need after a good long trek.
After leagues and leagues of walking.
Yeah. Samwise will get the brace of conies on.
Yeah.
Nice stew.
They won't get eaten.
No, they never eat.
Maybe some nice crispy bacon. That won't get eaten.
No. Eggs.
No.
Sausages. He did well to carry those eggs, didn't he? All that way. Am I imagining the eggs? Now I might actually be projecting. It was the one went on the side of Weathertop.
Yeah, the Weathertop with...
and Frodo says,
what are you doing?
Stop, you fools. Yeah.
Well, it's definitely nice.
I'm seeing sausage, bacon and eggs, but that's probably because that's what I want to see there.
But it's definitely nice crispy bacon. No, I went Welsh.
Yeah,
went Welsh.
Yeah. Nice crispy bacon.
That was not Welsh.
To do a Welsh accent. Oh, I was laughing. It didn't work. For laughing Welshman, that'd be a good pub. The Prancing Pony. No. Go to the Laughing Welshman down the road. Much better. Okay. So, restores your spirit. Your eyes are heavy when the soft clatter of falling pebbles reaches your ears. Perhaps you are not alone. Well, that's some fine deduction. But yeah. So you flip it over. And you require 7 progress to get through card 2B.
Much more manageable.
Much more easy. You've just done 20.
Yeah.
7's walk in a park.
It's not a walk in the park, it's a sit in a cave, is what it is.
Yeah. It's like a sit in a cave. And it's not going to catch on. Has a when revealed effect. It says, when revealed, search the encounter deck and discard pile for Goblin Gate and add it to the staging area if able. Then, if there is no active location, Goblin Gate becomes the active location.
Okay.
So basically, you're getting Goblin Gate as the active location.
Yeah, well, unless you have an active location, unless you're somewhere else at the time, and then it will just stay in the stage. It won't swap out anything which is currently the active location.
And why does it say add it to the staging area if able? Would there be any scenario where you wouldn't be able to add it to the staging area?
Yes, if it was already in there.
Oh, I see. Okay,
yeah.
So it's just a way to cover it off and make sure.
Let's say before you'd got onto this quest card, you had revealed it from the encounter deck. Then, of course, you can't go searching for it because it's already out.
Gotcha. Okay. So that's it for 2B. Shall I have a quick look at Goblin Gate?
Yeah, we better go and have a look at Goblin Gate then. I've got it here. So, Goblin Gate is a location, and it is a gate, not a goblin. And it contributes 5 threat and takes 4 progress to quest through it. And it states this: while Goblin Gate is the active location, the first enemy revealed from the encounter deck each round gains ambush. If that enemy engages a player, it makes an immediate attack. And then it says deal and resolve a shadow card. Now, it says on this, deal and resolve a shadow card. It's worth noting that if ever an enemy is engaged with you and forms an attack, it will always get dealt a shadow card. Sometimes they put it on the cards and sometimes they don't. But if in doubt, always deal a shadow card if an enemy is attacking you and it's engaged you sort of out of the regular format of the game. Always give it a shadow. Always make it as hard as possible.
Yeah, that's the rule. Worst case scenario.
So I am thinking this is Now remind me, in The Hobbit, do they not find an area of the misty? Am I mixing things up? There's a gap in the side of the mountain in The Hobbit where the Goblin King, not David Bowie, where his lair is, and I think that's like a gap inside a cave as well. But I might be making that up, and I think this is alluding to that sort of thing, because of course, if there was a place in this cave where goblins are living, that's why when they come off the encounter deck, they're going to ambush you immediately. So you're just resting, but there's a secret gate back there.
Yeah, well, in fact, you allude to it, but there is a quote at the bottom as well, which says, "A crack had opened at the back of the cave and was already a wide passage from the Hobbit."
So there you go.
Yeah, I think you are correct, sir.
See, my brain's not complete cheese.
Complete cheese. There's a kind of cheese with holes in it. Incomplete cheese. I'd like some incomplete cheese, please. Emmentaler? Thank you very much. So this, obviously, we'll come back to this when we talk about the quest in depth. But yeah, worth bearing in mind, there's obviously potential double attacks happening on you there when the Goblin Gate is the active location.
Sure. And of course, so that 5 threat is pretty unpleasant, but I must admit, I think every single time I played through, I didn't have an active location when I got to this stage. And actually, that's most likely, if you think about it, because you're going to be questing on that quest card 1, and in order to put that last progress token on that card, most likely you will have quested, and therefore probably you would have had to have quested past any location. So you'd have cleared the location and cleared the quest card. So more likely than not, when Goblin Gate comes out, it's becoming the active location. So that 5 threat is not really an issue, to be honest. Quite unpleasant if it is an issue, though.
Well, if you happen to draw the card off the deck on quest card 1 or whatever, which happened to me many times.
Oh, really?
I played. Yeah. Oh, we'll go into that.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So you've quested through card 2B, which means you've also got past the Goblin Gate by definition, as we've just kind of touched on. And the last card, so the first side is 3A, approaching Rivendell. And it says, orcs and other creatures have hounded you since fighting your way free of the orc outpost. Soon you will reach the safety of Rivendell's borders, but supplies have dwindled, and you are dead weary from sleepless nights of keeping watch. As dark forms shadow your camp. There's
someone got a little
use of it.
Someone got a little bit tired of writing in
It's a laughing Welshman. You're dead weary.
Sorry, I don't know why that's tickled me so much.
You tired?
I'm dead weary.
It's like a really specific colloquialism in kind of the British Isles, isn't it? Which you find certain places. It's, I was dead cold. I was dead tired. Dead weary.
Dead.
Okay. So, dead. Like really dead. So flip it over. Oh, and look at Rivendell, looking quite majestic through the trees there.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's the place you want to be. You need 13 to get through this last one, so another long bit of trekking. When revealed, reveal 1 card from the encounter deck per player and add it to the staging area.
Okay.
And it also says characters cannot be healed.
Yeah.
So don't forget that on this one. If the players defeat the stage, they have won the game. So that's your lot.
What would you say the theme is of the characters cannot be healed? Is it because you're just out of provisions? You're all dead weary. I mean, I think there's
I think that's it exactly.
Oh, actually, it says it on 3A. The supplies have dwindled, and you are dead weary.
Sleepless nights of keeping watch.
Yeah,
as dark forms shadow your camp, and you're also probably going to have some enemies at this point.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah.
And just said, so you're just running, fighting, just trying to finish this thing. You don't have time to heal and, sit around and rest up.
No, fair enough. Good. Right, so that's the quest in a nutshell. So it's actually quite linear, actually. I mean, in the sense that there's not too many sort of forks in the road, as it were. I mean, you basically, you're on the road to Rivendell, and that's going to take you through some dangerous areas. You're going to have a little bit of a rest at the worst possible cave. And then,
this place is nice. Yeah.
And then you're going to be dead weary and not be able to heal, and you have to push for Rivendell. How do you want to do this? We obviously want to talk about our decks, but we also want to talk about what might come out of the encounter deck. Should we start with some encounters?
I think so.
Then we'll talk about our adventures. Yeah. So obviously this encounter set is made up of the cards which come with that AP, and also 2 encounter decks from the Castle Doom Deluxe box. So there are a few cards we've seen before and a whole bunch of new ones. We'll focus mostly on the new ones, of course, but I will, when I tell some stories, just say that there's some old favourites in here that came back to haunt me.
Oh yeah.
Go on, you go ahead. Have you got any hand that you want to just talk about to kick us off?
Well, so I guess a couple of enemies. In fact, let me kick off with a couple of the old ones, which we've seen before.
Yeah.
And I think it's worth talking about some of the shadow effects.
Well, I have got a lot to talk about with shadows.
Because they really play a huge part in this quest, the shadow effects. Seems to be a constant. It's almost there's very few... There's only a few cards which don't have shadow effects which really affect, how the game's going.
I haven't made very many notes for this quest, but can I just read the first line of my notes that I've written? It says, worst shadows to date. Shadow cancellation is a must.
Yes.
No, so I can't agree more. The shadows really do play... I would say they do play a stronger part than the when revealed, or the locations, or the enemies themselves. But I don't know. Should we let's come on to the shadows in a moment. Let's look at the cards at their sort of face value, and then we can go into a big shadow rant.
Okay. Now, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to start with your favourite.
Okay.
Unless you want to. Now, you have always had, and as regular listeners to the show will know this as well, a huge dislike for wargs.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Now, there's the mountain warg.
Yeah.
This guy caused me a lot of problems.
Well, yes.
On a lot of times I played this quest.
Well, absolutely.
Now, just a quick reminder, the mountain warg is a creature. He's got an engagement cost of 30, a threat of 2, but he hits for 4.
Yeah.
And he's got 2 shield and 4 hit points. And so we're talking about how nasty the shadows are, which we will get onto. He has some text under him as well, which says, if Mountain Warg is dealt a shadow card with no effect, so if you're lucky and you don't get one of those nasty shadows, return Mountain Warg to the staging area after it attacks. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Now, that is not listed as any kind of like when revealed or anything like that, right? So this is just a constant effect.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
Which you can't really cancel. It's just going back to the staging area. Right?
Yeah, no, so the only way you can get around it is to destroy it before the shadow card is revealed.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you can't you can't
you can't reverse it.
No, you can't reverse it.
Or cancel it.
No,
sorry,
there's nothing to cancel, basically.
Yeah. Now, so this guy...
Oh, I would say if you were to feint the Mountain Warg, it would be dealt a shadow card, and the shadow card would not be revealed, so therefore it would remain engaged with you even if you didn't destroy it.
I did not play tactics on this. Well, we'll go into the decks a bit later, but I kind of wish I had played a couple of games using tactics. Yeah. It could be a very different experience, I'm sure, to what I had. But anyway, so this guy caused me so many problems where he'd take out a trump blocker or he'd whack a couple of hit points on one of your heroes and then just bugger off back to the staging area and just come again next time. It's really annoying. And it's really annoying if you've got the Goblin Gate there as well, because he's going to ambush you, going to do that, could end up back in the stage area and then come and do it again.
Yeah.
So you can have 2 free hits on you without you being able to do anything to him. So that happened to be on many occasions. So he was a real pain in the backside for me on this quest on quite a few occasions.
Yeah, the Mountain Warg. Oh, it is nasty. But I found him to be not too bad on this one for once. I mean, I say that, but on one of my goes, I think I died in the first round, and the first encounter card was the Warg's Lair, which in turn brought out the Mountain Warg. So to say it didn't cause me any problems would be a little bit of a lie. But actually, I think I was so concerned about it causing me problems that I snuck Gandalf into play and just destroyed it outright before it could do anything. And then I still lost.
Yeah. I did Gandalf a few of these on a few occasions.
I've got, whilst we're talking about some of the cards that we've already seen, there is one which didn't really cause us any problems when we saw it before, but definitely with this new keyword of ambush, suddenly it sort of comes into its own. And that is the Knees of the Mountain. Let me just find it here. Like I say, we saw this in a previous encounter. It's a mountain location and it contributes 2 threat and it takes 3 progress to get through it. But it states, while Knees of the Mountain is in the staging area, it gains Force. After an enemy engages a player, it gets +1 attack until the end of the round. Now, why that's interesting with Ambush is that if you have Knees of the Mountain in the staging area and you reveal an enemy with this Ambush keyword on it, that you have to perform an engagement check, which means that enemy could engage with you immediately. And if you're at the Goblin Gate, it will engage with you and attack you immediately. So if Knees of the Mountain is in your staging area, that enemy will get +1 attack at that point, and it will also get +1 attack when it attacks you again during the combat phase, because it's until the end of the round that it gets that buff. So Knees of the Mountain suddenly becomes really annoying, and you just have to get past it. I mean, just get it out of the staging area basically as soon as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a nice artwork, I've got to say, for this card.
It's beautiful. Yeah, it's just
nice, dark, mysterious mountain scene. The knees, I like the expression, the knees of the mountains are just jutting out. Well, can I talk about another location?
Go ahead.
And I'd like to talk about the Ruined Road. Because what we have here is the rarest of rare things in this game, which is a location which kind of helps.
Mm-hmm.
So Ruined Road only has 1 threat. You need 5 to get through it. And it's of type road. And the response on this one is, after you travel to Ruined Road, the first player places 2 progress tokens on it.
Yeah.
Nice. Or readies 1 hero he controls.
Yeah.
That can be really useful. So you can, as it only contributes 1 threat, you can kind of use this a little bit tactically by saying, well, hold on, I might keep that until a point where maybe I needed to quest more than I should have or whatever, and I need to ready a hero. Mm-hmm. This is a good way to kind of get that hero ready if you can afford to have that 1 threat sitting around in the staging area.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I just liked having a location where it wasn't doing something really bad to you.
No, I saw that card a few times. In fact, a couple of times I had it in the staging area twice, and I have to be honest, I just left it there. I just left it there for the entire game because I think it depends on when it comes out. I think that my whole deck was basically crucial to, once it got going, my deck was, I would say, pretty much unbeatable. But sometimes it didn't get going. And that was the problem. So I think it would definitely be, when that card came out, would definitely dictate, whether I was going to travel there or not. And I would say, I mean, we are sort of jumping around a little bit here, but I would say that's the interesting thing about that quest card 1 having 20 progress to get past it. It is a long slog to get through that first card. But what I found was that as there was nothing really sort of extra happening during that quest, I could just sort of quest through quite steadily and each round build up my forces for sort of questing and attacking, because there is a lot to fight in this quest. And then when I got to the point of getting past that first quest card, I absolutely sailed through the rest of the quest. I didn't have any trouble with the Goblin Gate, and I had no trouble with the final quest card either, because it would always take me a good few rounds to get past that first quest card, and at that point I was just sailing. And the times I didn't beat this quest, which we'll come to in a moment, I lost very quickly. I lost like I either lost immediately or I had absolutely no trouble whatsoever with this quest. And I think,
yeah,
a little bit of spoilers for sort of closing thoughts, but I think that's I did really thoroughly enjoy the quest, but I do think that's one thing which I thought is a little bit unbalanced about it is if you get off that first quest card, I don't think it's difficult at all to complete the quest in the slightest. But that might well have just been my deck, which we'll discuss in a moment.
And just to talk about what your deck was made out of, which spheres?
Leadership and tactics.
Okay, mine was leadership and spirit.
Okay,
and I'd say I had a pretty similar experience to that. I did have a couple, maybe 15-20% of the time playing the quest where it was kind of close and you had a lot of ebb and flow, but a lot of the time it was, like you said, sail through it, or you get something unlucky on the third round and you're out, kind of thing. But that did happen a fair bit. I'm pretty much in line with your experience there as well, I'd say.
Well, with that in mind, then, before we jump into some of these more of these encounter cards, because we do want to talk about definitely some of these enemies and definitely some treacheries and absolutely the shadows, I'll just quickly sort of say what my deck was, because I think it's quite important for me to be able to sort of say how we combated some of these things which are going to come out. So like I said, I was playing leadership and tactics, and I was playing with Legolas, and then I was playing with the twins, Elrohir and Eladan.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and it was really, really great fun, actually. And with leadership, it's relatively easy to get enough willpower to quest successfully, especially because we have Arwen as well, who's contributing 2 willpower every round if you quest with her. And then what I was doing, just a reminder on Elrohir and Eladan, so they're Elrond's sons, and I thought, that's quite thematic as well, actually. So
I still always think of the Pixies. Nimrod's son. Every time you say that.
So Elrohir is the leadership hero, and I'll just discuss them both, actually. So Elrohir is leadership and Eladan is tactics, and they both have a threat cost of 10. They both have willpower for 2. Elrohir hits for 2, whilst Eladan hits for 1, and Elrohir defends for 1, whilst Eladan defends for 2. So just the opposites of each other, and they both have 4 hit points. And then their effects are that whilst each other is in play, they buff each other, basically. So whilst Eladan is in play, Elrohir gets +2 defense. So suddenly he becomes a defender of 3, and he also hits for 2. And whilst Elrohir is in play, Eladan gets +2 attack. So he ends up hitting for 3 in tactics and defending for 2. So they actually both become incredibly powerful when they're both in play. And then they also both have a response that after they are declared a defender for Elrohir or an attacker for Eladan, you can pay a resource from their pool to ready them. I could have probably explained that a lot better if I wasn't jumping backwards and forwards between the cards, but you get the idea. And also, as we said many times, whilst we're discussing, if you bring up these cards in Rings DB whilst we're talking about it, it makes things a lot clearer what we're rambling on about. But basically, with Legolas, of course, as well, I was having no trouble at all with these enemies, because what I was doing is, at the beginning of the game, I was questing with just Arwen and Eladan, who is potentially your attacker. So I was keeping Elra here, who's potentially a defender, ready, and Legolas ready. So I was questing for 4 at that point, just without any other allies on the table. And then if an enemy came off the deck, what I was doing was I could defend with Elra here for 3 defense, which was nearly always enough to beat off any attack, as long as the shadow wasn't. We'll come to that in a moment.
Or one or two enemies.
Yeah, and if that enemy was particularly tough, I would be able to spend a resource from Elra here at that point, and then Elra here and Legolas combined attack would be 5, and that would nearly always destroy the enemy, and then that would be another 2 progress from Legolas on the quest. And that was my tactic with just my heroes and Arwen. And then alongside that, just very briefly, I had Rivendell Blade, which we discussed last episode, and that removes 2 defense. If you attach it to a Noldor or Sylvan character, all these heroes are either Noldor or Sylvan. And I was just putting that on Legolas because it was a no-brainer. And then I was using things like Hands Upon the Bow and Unseen Strike, all of which we discussed last episode. So jump back and listen to that episode if you haven't listened to it. And that was pretty much my deck. I mean, I'm not going to go into all the cards, but that was the cornerstone of how it was put together. Now, just whilst we are discussing last week's episode, I did put in keeping count.
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
how'd that work out for you?
Well, I took it out again. No, I couldn't get it to work. Just as much as we talked in the episode that we struggled to get it to work, I thought of some clever ways to get it going, and I just couldn't. And actually, do you know what I took out? And I replaced it with the Dúnedain Watcher. And just as a reminder of the Dúnedain Watcher, she is a 3-cost ally in leadership. Quest for 1, hits for 1, defense for 1, 2 hit points. But most importantly, for this particular quest, response: discard the Dúnedain Watcher from play to cancel the shadow effects of a card just triggered. Little teaser for what's coming up late.
You sacrificed those poor watchers.
Well, I had no cancellation at all at first. So keeping count was out. Dúnedain Watcher was in. So that was my deck. And like I said, the first sort of 4 or 5 times I played, I absolutely sailed through it. I thought this deck is on fire, and I do genuinely think it's a very good deck. I will write it up and post it on Rings TB, because actually there's a few we haven't put up there yet, but I will put this one up. And that was about a week or 2 ago I played that, and I thought, well, just before we record, I better play again to refresh my memory on it. And I thought I'd better write a few notes just to see how things played. And the first 2 times I played to refresh it, this is when I got completely destroyed in like the first round. It's like, oh, this deck is absolutely rubbish. But this is one I just made a note of. So I had that time when the first encounter was the Warg's lair that brought the Martin Warg out?
Martin Warg. Oh, Martin.
That brought Martin Warg out. And then staging for round 1, I got another old card, which is why I want to talk about it now before we go on to the new encounters, which is the Goblin Spearman. And the Goblin Spearman, he has an engagement cost of 15, so he's coming for you. He has 2 threat, hits for 2, defense for 2, 2 hit points. But importantly, he states that the Goblin Spearman gets +2 attack if its attack is undefended. So I had brought out a Snowborn Scout on my first round. Good old Snowborn Scout. So
yep, I used him as a potential chump many a time in this quest.
Well, that was my intention as well. So the Goblin Spearman engaged me. I defended with the Snowborn Scout. The Shadow, and it's our first mention of a specific shadow, was Undisturbed Bones, which we did discuss before.
Oh, I have come a cropper of this exact scenario before. It happened to be last night when I played, actually. Exactly, with the Snowborn Scout.
So I don't have the card in front of me, but just to paraphrase, essentially, Understood Bones Shadow states that if the defending character is an ally, it gets discarded from play. So obviously Snowborn Scout got discarded from play, which meant that the Goblin Spearman was now performing an undefended attack, therefore getting +2 attack. That was undefended, so that went on a hero.
Goodbye,
dead hero. And then, of course, then I'm stuck because you don't want to kill Legolas. We don't want to kill anyone, really, but you don't want to kill Legolas because he's going to help you progress your quest. And then Elladan and Elrahir become useless if one of them's not there.
You got to go with Legolas then. Otherwise, you destroy all your heroes, right?
Well,
oh no, you still got Legolas, I guess. Yeah, tough one. Well, you lost that quest, right?
Yeah, immediately.
Yeah. I had that exact same scenario happen to me yesterday. It's really frustrating. But there are lots of potential for frustrating things to happen in this quest, but they are quite funny, a lot of them too.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, absolutely.
So this was the kind of quest that even when I lost, a couple of times it was annoying, but a couple of times it was really just, I quite enjoyed it, and it was just quite hilarious.
Well, I only lost these 2 times, and we'll hear about your deck first, and then we'll come back to the second time I lost, because that was also on the first round. So it's not a long story.
Yeah, that been. Well, my deck was what I did, right, was I built a deck, and the idea was I was going to play this deck a few times, then I was going to build another deck utilising a whole bunch of the cards we discussed in the last couple of card episodes, a more contemporary deck. But I used the old classics for the first time, and the reason was, we talked about secrecy a few weeks back. I wasn't going to build a secrecy deck, but I liked the idea of, and we'll go into this when we talk about secrecy in the future, but having a deck which can give you a couple of ways to play, give it a bit of flexibility. I didn't make it. It was a big deck. It wasn't huge. It was 59 cards, which is quite small for me.
For you, yeah.
I'm getting there. But it was a lot of the classics. I said it was leadership and spirit. So I had Aragorn, original Aragorn, old school. Prince Imrahil.
Oh, yeah.
The old favourite. And my probably ultimate old favourite, Eowyn.
Of course.
So the idea there was, from a questing perspective,
oh, you're covered.
There's so much you can do. So Arwen quests for 2, right? And then you've got Aragorn, whose response is, after he commits to a quest, spend 1 resource from his resource pool to ready him. So when you're questing Arwen, you can get the resource, put it on Aragorn, and refresh him for free. So he was always ready after questing. Then you've got Prince Imrahil, who quests for 2, and his response is, after a character leaves play, ready Prince Imrahil. So if you're in a position where you have potential chump blockers out there, or people who can actually defend, then, well actually it's particularly for Prince Imrahil, you can ready him. So if you lose an ally, you can ready him in a battle. And Eowyn, of course, she quests for 4 anyway. So even if you didn't have Prince Imrahil on the go, just with Aragorn's response, you're questing for 8 just off the bat without anything else. And then what I also added in there was Celebrian Stone. Celebrian Stone, which is a super useful card because it gives +2 questing to either Prince Imrahil or Aragorn. But I put it on Aragorn because Aragorn also gets a spirit icon as well. So suddenly you can spirit, and then there's Steward of Gondor in there. So if you've got that going as well, then you can spend a lot on the spirit through Aragorn and Eowyn combined. So all that good traditional lovely stuff.
Sounds like a perfect deck. Just rush.
What could go wrong? And then I've got some trackers in there, the old classics. Had some Riddermark's Finest, some Faramir. Had, of course, Snowborn Scout as a chump.
Yeah.
Riddermark's Finest and Escort from Edoras as well.
Yeah.
They were really useful, those two, because they can allow you to quest more if you want, or put progress, or you can use them as chump blockers too, because they're not that expensive.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they were good for flexible cards. Had the old Ancient Mathom just for card draw. Unexpected Courage to ready people. So readying heroes was really vital. And then I also used the sort of Dunedain cards, a Dunedain Quest, Dunedain Mark, Dunedain Warning, just to beef up the heroes, give them a bit more oomph in whatever they're doing.
Yeah,
then
and something you haven't mentioned, which of course is the beauty of having spirit in your deck, is that you had cancellation, I imagine.
Well, yeah, that was the last bit I was going to come to. Yeah. So, I had Song of Travel in case Celeborn Stone didn't come out. And the idea of that is, well, if you end up with these cards, which are no good for you, you can burn them with Eowyn and get another quest going. So, nothing's wasted. Bit of standard fight, bit of Galadrim's Greeting to bring your threat down to avoid some of the ambush stuff, Perfect. And then, I did have... Ever Vigilant was a really useful one as well, which is a leadership one. So spend one resource to ready a hero. Very useful. But yes, of course, I had Test of Will and the old Hasty Stroke.
You see, I don't think you need Ever Vigilant in that, because you've got Aragorn readying himself. You're paying one resource to ready Aragorn, and you have the ability for Imrahil to ready himself. I mean... I think
if I was worried about Aragorn readying after questing, then I just wouldn't quest him potentially, right?
Okay.
If he took his response out, this was all about fighting multiple enemies, was without having tactics in there.
Yeah.
When I was losing this quest was when it could even just be two, sometimes even one enemy could, with multiple attacks or whatever, could really stitch you up. I found so I really had to keep my heroes ready.
Yeah,
the whole time. So it was more to do with that. And I like to point out, I played this quest, and on the first night I put this deck together, I think I played 6 times. The first 2 times, I won really quickly. I think I won really quickly, 4 rounds and 5 rounds, I think it was. I thought, I've got this nailed. This is so easy. Then I got absolutely whooped in the next one, and the next one, and the next one. I was determined to win again before I went to bed that night, and I managed to equalise before then. But it was interesting. So it was a similar thing to you. On that night, I kind of won quickly, and I lost quickly as well.
Yeah.
So if there are certain things I couldn't get going, then it was so that flexibility I was talking about. Even that you needed a little bit of setup at the beginning to sort of get going. It wasn't as fluid as I thought it would be in my mind. And then, so I was going to put a deck together which utilised... Oh, I should also say, in those 6 games, I did not get one single Shadow Cancellation card into my hand. In 6 games. I couldn't believe it. It was unbelievable.
It's because your deck's too big.
But anyway... Yeah, probably. It's only 59.
That's 9 rounds.
Yeah, it's true. But you got Ancient Matham. I was using Gandalf to draw cards.
True. Okay.
So I was going to put a different deck together to utilise for more recent cards, but I actually got drawn into, are there different ways I can approach playing? Rather than just trying to get certain things going or certain, mechanics going or whatever, is there a different way I can just play it to get different results? And I ended up having different experiences doing that, but actually the results were quite similar.
Yeah, but it's all about the journey, isn't it?
Well, all about journey. I ended up basically legging it. Just leg it.
So it's a
just
rush.
Go as far as you can. If an enemy comes along, just try and deal with it. And if it gets you, it gets you. And actually, doing it that way, I actually ended up with a higher ratio of wins, I think.
Yeah. When you told me your heroes, it's like, okay, yeah, you're just rushing. You're just rushing. And that's and that's fine. That is a tactic.
Yeah. But we'll talk about how we enjoyed the quest at the end, I guess. But anyway, that was my deck. So a little bit, maybe a bit unimaginative in some ways, using kind of older cards there. But I probably will replay this again the next couple of days with a newer deck.
Well, what I'll do is I'll post the deck I used and maybe give it a go, because I was actually really, really pleased to see how this deck played. It was a lot of fun. So if you don't want to think too much about putting a new deck together and it being a very different way of playing, a lot more fighty way of playing, then give it a go. I'll make sure I post that sooner rather than later.
Yeah. I might even have a go using your deck.
That's what I just said.
Myself. Oh, I thought you were talking to the listener.
No.
Okay. What's your deck called? Did you get?
I haven't named it yet. Because actually, do you know what? I'm talking about doing things old school. I put this deck together without Rings DB. I just got out the binders looked at them all and went, how about a bit of this? How about a bit of that?
Oh, that's how I build all my decks.
Oh, okay.
I never build them. I build them like that, and then I log them if I want to keep it.
Yeah, well, that's what I'll have to do. Yeah, but no, normally I'm sat up in bed building decks on my phone. You see?
Oh no, I like turning the pages of a thing. Oh, I'll have one of those. But that's why I end up with 80 card decks.
Yeah, but actually, it was a very interesting way of building a deck. I mean, once your card pool gets too large, it's pretty unwieldy. But yeah, but I enjoyed it. So I do need to still put it into RingsDB.
I'll post mine up as well. I think mine's called Lord Cortina.
Very good.
After the famous car. I don't think they had the Ford Cortina in America. I think it was called something else. Oh no, I'm thinking of a Capri.
Ah, yes.
I'm thinking of a Capri.
Oh.
Yeah. Awful Capri.
Just briefly, I will mention the other time, because basically, like I say, I played this quest a couple of weeks back and absolutely bossed it. Didn't break a sweat and just went, oh, this deck is flying. And then 2 nights ago, I thought, I better replay it for the podcast. And I played twice and got absolutely destroyed on the first round both times. I've already explained the first time, and I'll explain the second time now. And then I thought, well, actually, I haven't actually had a refresher before the podcast. So literally about 30 minutes before we recorded, I threw the game out on the table and played the quickest speed round of Lord of the Rings. All right, forget trying to immerse myself in theme. I was just grabbing resources. Right, 1 resource. Right, 2 for you. Stuart's gone. Okay, right, quest. Okay, right, attack. Yeah, right. He's done 2 more resources. Right, what? I've won. Swipe.
Are you sure?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I might have skipped something. But anyway, the time I lost, the second time I lost a couple of days ago, was also quite comedic because it was on my first round again, and well, this is another shadow actually, and it is on a card called Pathless Country. It's a location, and it has location-y type things on it, but we'll come to that in a second. Let me just quickly, just for the sake of this little story, just jump directly to the shadow. So basically, I was engaged with 2 enemies straight off the bat. First round, I think the first card revealed on stage 1 was an enemy, and then the first staging was another enemy, and they both engaged me. And I had the same shadow on both enemies. And it simply says this: deal 1 damage to each ally in play. I only had 1 ally in play, and that was Arwen. That's 2 damage. Dead Arwen. Game over.
The end. And that's what could happen. But you don't think of it, do you?
But it's the shortest,
what could happen?
shortest possible game. I mean, to be fair, that's even for this game, that's pretty cruel.
Yeah.
Whilst I've got this card in my hand, shall I just mention it as a location as well? So we could. Yeah. So this is a new location called Pathless Country, as I said. It contributes 3 threat in the staging area. It takes 5 to progress through it, which is pretty unpleasant. It is it's type hills.
Not type knee.
No. And it's got a forced effect, and it says, after at least 1 progress token is placed on the Pathless Country, remove 1 progress token from it. Now, this sounds simple enough. So basically, if you successfully quested for 3, you'd put 3 on it, and then you'd take 1 away, so you'd actually end up with 2 on it, and you'd have to do that every time until you could get past it. Now, there is a little bit of controversy about a rule nuance on this. And that...
Well, can I tell you how I played it?
No, go ahead, yeah.
I played it, but if I had something like a tracker, or Lorien Guide, say, or either one, if it's in a staging area, if I used that, I put 1 progress on it, I'd remove it straight away.
Yep.
If I had 2 or 3 trackers, none of them, you'd end up still with no progress put on it, because as soon as you don't put them all at the same time, you do 1 at a time, right? So you put 1 on, you take it off. You put 1 on, you take it off.
For the trackers, yes. Yeah.
And I think anything where it says any action or anything that happens where it says place a progress token or 2 progress tokens, you just take one off immediately.
Absolutely.
So anything that says add a progress token,
yeah,
you're basically not adding a progress token.
And for instance,
that's the way I play it.
No, that's absolutely correct. Yeah, that's definitely that. You've definitely done that correctly. Well done.
Yay! What episode are we on?
So, and then, for example, again, so based on what you're saying, that if Legolas kills an enemy and he puts 2 progress on it, then 2 would go on, and then 1 would come off.
Exactly,
because he puts 2 on in one go. So the question, the sort of raises is what happens
it's when you finish it.
Yeah, what happens if you, which is what happened to me. I quested
for 6.
Well, I quested for 5. Exactly 5.
Okay, 5. Sorry, 5. Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
And so,
see, I count that as 4.
Well, yeah,
but actually, maybe that would complete it.
Exactly, and that's what I
because you put it on first.
Yeah,
and then it's instantly done. We said it's the second it hits for
and that's
so I was probably playing that wrong. Also, every time I spilled over onto the quest card, I always did 1 less than it should be because I always took 1 off.
Yeah, no,
if that was for low case, so I was doing that wrong. Actually, I should have.
So you've inadvertently made your life more difficult.
So I've inadvertently. So what this is the first little strands of karma coming for me for all of the inadvertent cheating I've done over the last months.
Yeah, so essentially I did a bit of a deep dive on this, and it's quite hard because it's quite an old card, of course, but it's quite hard to find like the official rulings, but I did pretty much find it all apart from absolutely finding a letter of intent from Fantasy Flight, I pretty much found the correct ruling on it. So basically, if you quest for exactly 5, all those tokens will hit this card in one go, and it says on the card, forced, after at least 1 progress token is placed on Path of Sculpture, you remove 1 progress from it. Now remember that series of events of when things happen. I remember it's like passive effects happen first, then forced, then responses. I think that's the correct order. So even though it's not really a passive event as such, the point of you exploring it will happen before the forced effect kicks in.
It says after at least 1 progress taken is placed on path. And if you put the 5th progress at that second, that's complete.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that makes perfect sense.
So that's one little rule nuance. Okay, we're flying through this.
Yeah. Can I talk about an enemy?
Please do.
And I'll tell you about one of my comedy endings to a game. This is one of the few close ones. And basically, I was at a point where I'd managed to survive. I was on the last quest card. I'd managed to survive. And I had a couple of enemies engage with me. And I was basically... And my allies went, apart from Arwen. And I was on my last legs. And I thought, I've just got to leg it through. So I did the maths. I brought out our chum Gandalf. And I thought, I'm just going all in questing. And I've got when revealed cancellation in my hand. Right?
Sorted.
So I worked it out. I thought, as long as there's not more than 4, which gets drawn from the encounter deck, I'm going to do it, right?
Okay.
Bear in mind, Goblin Gate's already gone. Goblin Gate's gone because you've got 3 quest card 2. So, quested everyone. Flip over the encounter card, and it is Crebain, however you pronounce this, these birds, which have an engagement cost of 35. They're a creature, by the way. They got a threat of 2, hit for 0, a shield of 0,
Naught.
and 3 hit points. Naught. What's wrong with me? I keep saying, what's happened to me? This is that karma I've been talking about. Jeez. No, I'm worried about myself. And then it's got that word you just love to see. Surge. That's like, great. I think this is possibly the only surge card in this entire thing. Maybe I might be wrong about that. And then it says, while Crebain is in the staging area, encounter card effects cannot be cancelled.
Oh.
So it's like, okay. And then suddenly I had the cold sweat. And I thought, if something nasty comes off now, I'm in trouble. So I flip the next card, and what is it? Don't worry, it's fine. It's our old friends, the Black Uruks. Pretty bog standard enemy, right?
Yeah.
Who they got a threat of 2. So that adds up to 4. Boom. I'm just about by 1.
Yep.
I have cleared this.
That's exactly what you needed. Yeah.
Exactly what I needed. When revealed, The first player must choose and discard an attachment from a questing character, if able. The only attachment I have at this point is Celebrian Stone on Aragorn. So I've done it by one. I've taken it off now. I'm losing by one. So I failed. I've managed the quest, but I failed by one token.
Amazing.
And in fact, it might have even been one of the Dunedain marks, actually. But and it was so annoying. And then obviously I had these enemies engaged who just had an undefended attacks, and I died instantly. And that was the end of that. But that. So it's not really for Surge, and as a creature, that Crebaean aren't that tough, whatever. No. But that is a potentially, and this is just getting Black Uruks, no biggie. Now, if you think about some of the other treacheries that we get on here, and maybe we should start talking about some of those, this can be an absolute game over card, just because of that effect.
Yeah, I mean, we will jump to the treacheries. I've got a couple more enemies just to highlight, because I didn't really struggle with the enemies because I had such a fighty deck. But I think it is worth mentioning a couple. One, the Goblin Taskmaster, which is
oh God! Yeah. Look at this guy. He looks like an alien.
He's a funky looking guy, isn't he? I always think he looks like a praying mantis or something.
Yeah, he's got something of that. Look about
the only good bug is a dead bug.
Yeah.
And it has an engagement cost of 27. Contributes.
It's low.
Contributes 2 threat. Hits for 2. Defends for 2. Has a whopping 4 hit points. You've got to get 6 on this guy.
That's just unnecessary.
He has ambush, so if he's coming off the encounter deck, chances are he's going to engage you straight away. But I didn't really struggle with ambush that much. When it came out, it was more often than not things would engage me, and then I was actually just quite grateful that they weren't in the staging area actually for my questing. And then because I had such a fighty deck, I could at least see what I had to deal with. And then I would rather just be able to put the progress on the quest.
I was the same, apart from the fact that so many of the shadows are returning attacking enemies to the stage. I fell foul of that many times. Especially with this guy's, what you're about to read next.
And then, okay, so I was about to say that ambush didn't really cause me too much trouble, but of course, you're almost being forced to engage this guy. And then it has a forced effect that says, after Goblin Taskmaster engages a player, that player deals 2 damage to 1 character he controls. So obviously that doesn't go on Arwen. So it's pretty unpleasant. I mean, I nearly always just chucked it on one of my heroes because...
But this is exactly the kind of thing I would come a cropper of, because if he's got ambush, and then he goes back to the staging area, then he engages you again when you do the engagement checks. So you still got to put 2 more damage on something.
But that's only on the Goblin Gate, because in the Goblin Gate, when the ambush cards come out, is that right?
No. So it's when he engages the player. So it doesn't matter whether he attacks you. Okay, well, yeah, so to do 2 attacks, of course. Yeah, to do 2 attacks, of course. Yeah. But regardless, every time this guy bounces back to the staging area and comes back again, you got to put 2 damage on something. So when you get that shadow... I was keeping the shadow cancellation in mind for a couple of very specific things, and one thing in particular, which we should probably talk about in a second. But I ended up having to use it on cancelling the return enemy to the staging area quite a few times in my games, because otherwise I was going down.
Yeah, I mean, and then there was just one other enemy, which actually, it looks much scarier than it is, I felt. And that's the wild bear. And it's a wonderful bit of artwork. Absolutely beautiful. Yeah. And it's a big old bear. It's a big old bear. And that has an engagement cost of 34. Contributes 0 threat. Hits for 2, defense for 3, and a massive 5 hit points. Now, I think I was maybe just a bit lucky when this guy came out, because it nearly always came out when my threat was lower than 34. So this creature does have ambush, but because my threat was lower, the engagement check didn't trigger. So it just stayed up in the staging area, contributing.
I very rarely had that.
Contributing a threat of naught. And then I would just try my best to spam it with things like Hands Upon the Bow and Unseen Strike, as we discussed last episode. Because this does if this does ambush you, it's got a very nasty force effect. When Wildbear engages a player, it makes an immediate attack. Again, sort of similar to exactly what would happen if it was at the Goblin Gate. But it doesn't actually attack for that much, but you just don't want to be engaged with this thing because it's going to take a long time to kill.
And this, again, to go back to the bouncing back to the staging area, the reason it was a real pain, even for someone like this, it only hits for 2. You can probably defend it, but then you've exhausted a character and potentially a hero, and he goes back, comes back. And that's what really was getting me, is I was just running out of people to be able to defend. And once you start taking undefended attacks in this game, it's you're not going to be long off this world.
No.
And I'll just very quickly mention, we won't talk about detail, Chieftain of the Pit is here. Nasty bloke.
Never saw
him. And he's
him.
only got an engagement of 27. Oh, you didn't see? Oh, God, this guy's the worst. Hits for 5. When revealed, Chieftain of the Pit gets +3 until the end of the round. It's fantastic if you got that at the Goblin Gate.
Yeah, because there's also the Archer, isn't he? He's around.
Now, here's the guy you do want at the Goblin Gate.
Oh, yeah.
You want this guy to attack you and get out of the staging area, basically, because he only hits for 1, and then you can just take him. Well, he's got free shield, actually, but whatever. Yeah, you can deal with him, I think.
I didn't see him that often, but I didn't even see the Chieftain of the Pit. I've just gone through the deck now, going just to see it with my own eyes.
Yeah, there's only one Chieftain.
Yeah.
That just leaves... In fact, should we just finish off the enemies? There's only one other enemy.
Oh, go ahead, yeah.
And that's the Orc Raiders. Now, these can be tricky buggers as well. They've got an engagement cost of just 21, 1 threat, a hit for 3, 1 shield, and 3 hit points. Ambush, after this enemy enters play... Well, it's just an ambush. But it's got this unbelievably annoying force effect. And I think this is why I had this one before, why I ended up with only about 1 attachment left, which I had to take off Aragorn to lose that other game. After Orc Raiders engages a player, that player discards 2 attachments he controls. If able. That's so nasty. And if this guy engages you, bounces back and engages you again, you've lost probably all your attachments at this point. You just got stuff flying off you. Sword over there. Where's your ring gone? Oh, it's over there. There's Celeborn stone. Oh, that goblin's eating it up there. It's just running. It's like there's loot falling out. But
see, you really came a cropper to what I normally have happening with the Wargs, which is why I hate them so much. But it's and
that never bothered me before. This is more karma. What's it? Things are
turning.
Strange. Things are turning. Yeah, this is not good.
Right,
I'm going to be sitting there next winter in my garden furniture.
Okay, there is one very large Oliphant in the room, which if you happen to know this encounter set, you know there is one card we're not talking about. But I will delay that for one more moment because there is one other card I want to mention because there is a slight rules thing on it, and that is a treachery called Followed by Night.
This is the only card I felt I needed to look up when I played this game.
Okay, so...
And I'm glad I did, because it wasn't the direction I thought it was going to.
Okay, so I think you basically have already answered for yourself why there is a slight rules question with it. So it states this. When revealed, the first player, brackets choose 1, deals 1 damage to all allies in play, and Followed by Night gains Surge, or all enemies engaged with players make an immediate attack if able. Now, I am guessing that you had no enemies engaged with you at the time.
Correct.
So you wanted to look up, does that mean you can choose that and have...
Yeah.
And basically...
And I'll tell you for why. It's normally, as we know, well documented in this podcast, I'd go for worst case scenario, right? But it does, because I think it's quite specific about what it says on the card, and actually it's straightforward. And it says the first player choose one.
Yeah.
You can choose deal 1 damage to all allies, followed, and then do surge, and then the statement is all enemies engaged with players make an immediate attack if able.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to choose all enemies engaged with, make an immediate attack. And if it didn't happen to be any,
exactly,
so be it.
If the number of enemies
that's what made me. Yeah.
If the number of enemies happens to be 0, then you're golden, and you played it absolutely correctly.
I did look it up though, because I thought, is that too good to be true? So my paranoia.
And going forward in the game, it is too good to be true. By the way, because what they sort of changed. Well, not really changed. That is another when in the future, and I think actually maybe we've already seen it as well. It's just not on this specific card. Is if the wording is the first player or the last player or whatever it decides to say must, and then rather than choose one, the first player must deal 1 damage to all allies in play, and followed by Night Gain Surge, or all enemies engaged with a player make an immediate attack. That use of the word must, if I understand this correctly, in the fact, is basically, it means that you have to carry out one of those stipulations that has an effect. Now, it doesn't really work as an example for this one, because you could still say, well, I must have all enemies engaged with me make an immediate attack, and that's still not. But you'll see it going forward that they make it quite specific, that when it says that you have to do this or this, when they put must there, you'll see how it's written, that it's like you have to choose something which does something bad to you. But you'll see that, and you'll definitely see the word must be added to these sort of cards. But like I said, I think I saw this card 3 times, and by chance, every single time I didn't have any enemies engaged with me. So
yeah, I think I was the same, luckily.
Yeah.
And just a quick word, Shadow, return attacking enemy to the staging area. Just want to chuck that one out there.
Right. Okay, I think we've waited long enough.
So I think we've only got 3 new cards left. Anyway, to go through. So I think, well, in fact, let me just get this one out of the way very quickly. Simple one. It's a location, Barren Hills, 2 threat. You need 4 to get through it. Type Hills.
Mm-hmm.
More great artwork. While Barren Hills is the active location, ignore ambush.
Oh.
Okay. And the reason I wanted to mention this was just purely because I just love the theming. And you look at the artwork and everything's kind of, there's a couple of things to hide behind, but not too, you can't really ambush someone. You know, it's another kind of friendly location, which I love. And so I just love the idea of you're in a place geographically where it's not possible to physically get ambushed.
Theme is lovely there.
Yeah,
absolutely lovely.
Really, really good. So yeah, I just want to mention that one very quickly. It deserved a mention.
Okay. Okay, so you say there's one other card. I mean, we
got 2. There are 2 cards.
Yeah, but we have teased the one that we've I think we've tried to start talking about it about 6 times, but we're not even going to do it now. What's the second to last card, Em?
Okay, so the second, I'll leave the last one to your good self, and I will read this one. Now, I got a bit lucky with this one, I think, but this could be potentially unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just Treachery, Orc Ambush. And Surge, it's got Surge on it as well. This is the other Surge
There you
card.
go.
When revealed, all Orc enemies in the staging area engage the first player. So that could be pretty nasty. If there's only one, you maybe get away with it, whatever.
Yeah.
However, it goes on to say, if there are no Orc enemies in the staging area, return all Orc enemies in the encounter discard pile to the staging area if able.
Yeah.
So you could end up, Orc Ambush, you could end up with what? 10 or 15 if you're unlucky? Cards there? Boom, 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 here they come. And you're going down.
The more I listen to you, the more I think I just got absolute luck of the draw with this set, because
I think I did too.
Because I saw this card a couple of times and I didn't really have much effect on me. Of course, the Surge is nasty, and I think the last time I saw it was this very last game I played this evening, and it came out as the first card from Quest Card 1A. So of course I got a Surge, but it didn't do anything. So I mean, I got another card to replace it, but I got this one out of the way. So thank you very much.
What you want is a whole bunch of orcs in the staging area, right? and then you get this, and they all engage you, and then on the surge you get another one of these, and then you get all the ones from the encounter discard pile come into the stage. It's just like wave after wave. Now, someone somewhere playing this must have seen that combo.
Yeah.
Just suddenly went from being complete control to just like lines of armies.
There'll be someone listening to this just going, "What do you mean it didn't cause you any trouble?"
Yeah, you know nothing. You haven't lived. Yeah, yeah, exactly. All right, John. Well, that brings us swiftly on,
yeah,
to the very last card. And God, I think this is a particular favourite of your good self.
Well,
but I think it's going to be a favourite of everyone's.
Yeah, I mean, when I set up this quest to play again to refresh ourselves on it, I set up the encounter decks and I put my deck together and I just sort of started playing casually one night. Things were coming off the encounter deck. Oh, there's a bear, there's some orcs, and then this treachery came off of the encounter deck, and I just went, oh
yeah,
it's this one. This is an infamous treachery, and it's
infamous treachery. I love that. He exclaimed,
and it is beautifully thematic and utterly horrendous, and it is called Sleeping Sentry. You ready for this?
That could be me. I'm not going to lie to you. Sentry duty is not my thing.
I'll read the when revealed effect, and you're going to say, "Oh, that's horrible," and then I'll read the shadow effect. So, when revealed, deal 1 damage to each exhausted character, then exhaust all ready characters. So I got this, and I was like, "Oh my God, that's horrendous." I remember this one. This is insane. I didn't even read the shadow. We'll come to that in a second. So basically, you've quested a bunch of characters. You've got them all exhausted there. They all get 1 damage. And then everybody else you got on the table gets exhausted. So good luck with anything else that round. So if that comes out at the wrong time, that can really be a game ender. If you've got lots of enemies to face, and you have no way of readying people. I mean, you had now your Ever Vigilant is sounding pretty tasty.
Exactly. As long as you got the bugger in your hand. Yeah, this is potentially horrific. So before we talk about the shadow, I'd like to point out I've had this card twice in 2 of the games I played as the first one revealed during the setup.
Perfect.
One time it was fine. I got a location. I failed questing. I travelled there. But I basically ended up with a couple more threat than I should have. But I'd got rid of one of these. So I thought, that's fine.
Exactly.
The second time it happened, but obviously everyone exhausts. So everyone's lying down. And then I got Chieftain of a Pit. So which hero is dying with his hitting for 8 on his first go? And by the way, next time he's hitting for 5. And that was basically game over, pretty much from the first game. Amazing. So this one, but you get this one at the wrong time, and at any time.
No, you get this one at any time.
Any time, it just destroy you. It's horrible. Deal 1 damage to each exhausted. You're pretty much going to be questing Arwen.
Yeah,
almost every time, right?
Absolutely.
I would think, right? I think once you've got 1 damage on Arwen. Yeah, you might think twice about questing her, but I never did. I quested her every time anyway. But that's why you need that kind of cancellation there. If she
wants to take her over the mountains and off the road to Rivendell, she can pull her weight, is what I say.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, go on, Arwen. Even I'll take you along for the ride. I'm tired. She wouldn't get tired at Arwen.
No,
we'd be tired. Can I point out? So this was another one when I had the Crebine Classic.
It's a golf tournament, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Invitation only. So as a reminder, when Crebine is in the staging area, encounter card effects cannot be cancelled.
Oh.
And with Surge. So you surge into that, and into a Sleeping Sentry, you cannot cancel it if you've got that one. So it's just horrible. So, yeah. Well, go on. So,
I mean, I didn't have cancellation for when revealed effects in my deck anyway, so I just had to take it on the chin.
Had to deal with it. Okay. And how about your shadow?
Well, just before we hit that shadow, I love the theme. So you've got a sleeping sentry. You've got someone who's meant to be keeping watch, but you're all exhausted. You're dead weary.
Yeah, exactly.
So your sentry's fallen asleep, and then some nasty assassin has snuck into the camp and is going to stab everyone who's sleeping. And then weirdly, everyone else falls asleep. But I don't really understand that bit.
But everyone else is asleep because you got a sentry. Why'd you have a sentry if everyone's else awake? It's at night time. You're resting at camp.
Okay. Yeah. So, it could be worse. It could be exhaust everyone and then deal 1 damage to every exhausted character. I've just made it worse.
So basically what it is, right? The way I see it, and maybe this is my interpretation, but deal 1 damage to each exhausted character. So all the ones who are resting and sleeping,
they all get
are
stabbed.
getting damaged because somebody's coming for them.
Yeah.
But then the other ones who are awake kind of fend them off or whatever, but then they're exhausted because they're in a battle, but they don't happen to lose, they don't get hit by anything. That's the way I've always
I like
saw
that. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
Okay, we've managed to justify another one. Okay.
The time has come. So let's say you've managed to avoid this as a when revealed treachery. But let's say you're defending some lowly orcs, and you happen to reveal this as a shadow card. Simply says this: Shadow. Defending player must discard all exhausted characters he controls.
Goodbye, Owen.
I mean, if that's
so it's everyone who's questing.
It's everyone who's quested, anyone who's already defended, the defender you've just exhausted to reveal this shadow card. So even if that isn't game over at this point of revealing the shadow, you're going to take an undefended attack with whoever you've got left ready. Because this is going to be on a...
Oh, that's true. God, I didn't even think about that. Because normally...
because it's normally game over. Yeah, because it's not... Yeah, if you manage to reveal this as a shadow and it's not game over, then I think you're in the minority.
Yeah, but I didn't think of that, obviously. So it's even got that implicate. Even if you did happen to be smart and say, I'm not going to quest Arwen because I know that's going to destroy me.
Yeah.
Then you're defending with somebody.
Yeah.
And that whoever is defending...
They're gone. They're gone. So that's going to be
it's not even all allies. It's all characters.
All characters.
Any hero, dead,
just gone.
And if you do happen to have one left, but when they're taking an undefended attack, at best, that's your best case scenario. It's a genius card, isn't it?
Oh,
it's
I love
funny.
It. I mean, there was a lot of controversy about this card that it was so unfair. But the thing is, for me,
I love it.
I'm with you. This game is incredibly unfair at times, and once in a while there is one card which turns it up to 11, and I think that's fine. Once in a while, you put a card in which is unbeatable, and it's like, why not? Well, and it's not unbeatable. If you have shadow cancellation, you cancel it.
And I don't think, I wouldn't say it's like it's fair. I think it's great. I think you should once in a while absolutely put these wildcards in. And then you got to think, okay, to get through this specific quest, okay, I can put a shadow count, but is there another thing I can do? Yeah. I love the different ways you can play. So the easy option, shadow cancellation, right? So you had the defender of
the
Doomdine Watcher, and I had shadow cancellation, right? Because it's a spirit deck. But there are other ways to do it. You can think, you can be a bit smart about, well, I haven't seen one of those yet. I've got a feeling one of them's cropping up at some point.
Yeah, so you
might have a bit of fear. So I won't quest Darwin. I'll be a bit more conservative or whatever. Oh, it didn't come up this time. Damn it. And it can just bring, drama and tension to the game. And why wouldn't you want that?
Yeah, absolutely.
A card of death,
Yeah, exactly. I love it. I love the idea.
It's hilarious.
Because it's not a particularly long quest to play, and if once in a while you have a comedic way of ending it, then so be it. It's great.
Yeah, exactly. Great. No, I love it too. I think we discussed this very much, maybe even the first ever podcast or something, first couple, where we talk about what we like about games. And like I think I mentioned that when I didn't play, well, actually we did play a few games with my family when I was growing up, but we always tended to like games where you could, where you could really like stitch up another player, or suddenly something could happen, switch the whole thing around, and that was I think that's always appealed to me. So I guess if you approach from the point of view, actually I'm sort of building something slowly, and and then something like that comes out of left field, it could completely do your head in. I understand that, but for me personally, no, I think this is great, and I think this is one of the things which really adds to the enjoyment of his quest. Frankly,
oh, for sure, I absolutely love it, and I do understand the frustration about it more if this quest took 3 hours to complete, and then it came out at the very end, and you had no way.
That would still be funny though. That'd be even funny. Oh, you play it in real time, leagues and leagues. Yes, the last thing Elrond said just before he set off on this ridiculous journey. Go, don't fall asleep.
What was that? Nothing.
Have fun.
No, not Elrond. Celeborn. Elrond's who we're going to see.
Sorry, I beg your pardon. I'm getting my elves mixed up.
Yeah, no. Yeah. Well, I can't believe how many times we teased we were going to get to that card throughout the duration of this conversation.
Yeah. No, it is the one to save to the last, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I think I am dead weary.
Yes, so am I.
But I think we've covered everything. But okay. So, what are your final thoughts on the quest? How did you find it? I mean, we kind of touched on it now that we both really enjoyed it. But
I think just the fact that I replayed it a lot of times with the same deck and enjoyed it all the way through is a proof of what I think of it, I think. So instead of saying, I need to just... I was very eager just to dive back in and see what happened. So it was a surprisingly replayable quest.
Yeah.
I say surprisingly. Why should it be surprising? I think it's, like you said at the beginning, maybe a bit more of like a traditional, in inverted commas. If I say, there's no like loads of special rules and special things you got to do. It's very much a using the standard way of playing kind of thing, with just one or two things with like Arwen and the
ambush.
Thank you, thrown in there. So it's from that perspective, it's fairly straightforward in terms of the mechanics of it and everything. But I think thematically it works great. I really enjoyed the whole ambush part of that, how that works into the theme as well. Like I mentioned, some of the locations working against that I really like. So it ticked all my favourite kind of boxes, which was that it was, even though it was quite fighty, I still felt like it was, you were on a long journey trying to fight off people trying to ambush you, basically. And when you lost, you felt ambushed and it was over quickly and you got overrun, So I thought, it was fun to play, it was replayable, and it was really thematic. So it gets a big thumbs up from me, actually. I really like it.
Absolutely. I don't think I can put it any better, so I won't repeat it, but I think that's absolutely it. I think I love the theme of it. I didn't find it that difficult. I mean, the official rating was 4, did you say?
Yeah, 4.
And I would say that's probably about right. I mean, if I didn't get absolutely stitched up on the first round, I would sail through it, but it wasn't so much that it was boring because of that. I really enjoyed sailing through it. It was still it was still a fun process,
Absolutely.
And it was really good to see. We both had different styles of decks, so there's obviously different ways you can skin this particular cat. Oh, that's back to your documentary. But that's nice. So it shows that it's quite a fun. It's quite a good, because it's a simpler quest. Not to belittle it, but because it's simpler, because it's quite a good one for deck testing. So you can put a different deck together. You can see how it plays together. You can go, well, actually, this deck kind of flows because this quest has got a bit of fighting. It's got you've got some unpredictable treachery, to say the least, and you've got some interesting locations. So it's got a little bit of everything, but it's not overly complex. You don't have to design a deck specifically to defeat it. And for me, I think that's a lot of fun. I mean, of course, I do like the quests which really do pose a challenge because I like to be tested. But once in a while, it's nice to have something which is just a bit of a bit of a riot to play, actually.
Yeah, a bit of a release. And I think you and I are similar. We love the variety of the quests. What was the name of the quest where it's really, really questy? Where you got to, is it the mountain ones?
Oh, the Hills of Emyn.
Yes, that one, which is really like a long slog, doing a lot of questing and not too much fighting. And for example, I found that one really playable and replayable. Actually, even though it took a long time, I found myself really drawn into it. I can imagine that wouldn't be the same for everybody.
No,
I imagine some people would like lots of encounters and lots of things happening all the time. But I like that too. But I love the mixture. It gets you into different. Again, it comes back to theme, I think, because what I like about this game is that it can pull you into those different directions. So it can really pull you into that kind of almost like tunnel vision, zoning out, long quest kind of thing, and going over these huge geographical ranges, or something like this, which is a bit smaller than that, but it's like one road, one journey you're sort of going on. Or sometimes they could be, you're just in one place having a massive battle, and I love a quest like that too. So I think and obviously all the shades in between, and yeah, I love how they mix them up in different quests and order them in that way, so you can kind of get that sort of different flow of experiences as you're playing through. So, yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah, no, great. I absolutely agree, 100%. So big thumbs up from both of us for this one. All right, well, dear listener, we had a little discussion about whether or not we would discuss this question in a slightly different way because it might condense how
That did not work. It did not work.
If anything, it took longer.
We'll have to, we'll have a rethink. We'll revisit.
But we just like these questions. We like talking about them, and sometimes we just get carried away. And if you don't mind listening to us, we will happily talk about these quests all night. So, but I do think we should probably wrap things up.
Yes,
now.
I think I'm dead hungry.
So next time we'll be back discussing player cards. It will be either leadership, law, or spirit from the Dwarrowdelf. I think again what cycle we're on from the Dwarrowdelf cycle. But if you would like to get in touch with us before then, there are a few ways you can do it. You can get in touch with us via email, which is lateoftherings@gmail.com. You can contact us via Twitter, which is @lateoftherings. And there is the Board Game Geek thread, which, as ever, there'll be a link to in the show notes. So, with that, all it leaves me to say is... What are you laughing at?
Because we've got through leagues and leagues of this podcast.
All it leaves me to say is thanks once again for listening. And until next time, take care out there, and goodbye.
Goodbye.
That was the worst goodbye ever.
Was it?
Yeah.
Shall I do another one?
Yeah, go.
And goodbye. And goodbye. Goodbye. How's that?
Perfect.
I normally have me in the background anyway. I do goodbye.
I know.
Okay, let me try this. Bye. How's that?
You know I'm leaving all of this in.
Yeah.